Is this thing on?
Are you ready, Matt?
You're listening to Box Office Bingers
with Matt Diaz and Ernesto Santos.
Good evening, folks. We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you.
We know each other. He's a friend from work.
Box Office Bingers.
And the only way that I know how to do it is to find you a bloody good dump.
He's my friend. I don't have friends. I got family. I can do this all day.
You know, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Box Office Bingers. Now, this is a very, very special episode. I know what you're saying. Matt, you say it's a special episode. Every single episode. Eventually, they're not going to be special anymore. It's just not special, but it's wrong. You're wrong. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why you're wrong. Because every episode is special. Sometimes we have special guests. Sometimes we review special movies. But today, we are celebrating a very special individual. Without this guy right here, Ernesto, we would not. Hello.
It'd be me.
It'd be you. We would not be having this podcast 218 episodes later. And so I'm wearing my very special shirt, my fancy shirt for very special occasions, because today we are celebrating a very, very special day, which is your birthday, sir. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
How are you doing today on this special day?
I feel old. But
Well, that happens.
I'm an old man now. No,
Yeah.
no, I feel good. You know, my knee's giving me a little bit of issues. You know, my bum knee from a couple that I had surgery on, which was another reminder of my age.
Yes.
But for the most part, I'm blessed, man. I mean, life couldn't be better. You know, we got the pod, everything's going great here, family's great, work's great. Like I don't know.
What more can you ask for?
For real, seriously.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's what it's about. How are you? How are you, sir?
I'm good.
Look at you. You're so snazzy. Like
I know, right? It
So
was funny
proud of
because you. I mean, if for those who might have watched or listened to our Oscars predictions episode, or was this our Oscars winners recap episode? I think it was a recap episode. I'm not sure. Recap, yeah. But you asked me what my shirt size was, and then I told you extra large. Anyone who's curious, and.
Might as well send him the address too.
Yeah, we'll get there in a second. And so then all of a sudden I got this thing in the mail, and it was just a fancy shirt.
That's right.
A fancy shirt for bow tie for very special occasions. It was meant for the Oscars, but now I feel like I can wear this for multiple things, and I'm very excited about this.
I'm glad to see the shirt to remake an appearance already.
Yes.
Instead of waiting until Oscars next year.
And if this any indication also, before we even get started, like the fact that you are recording this on your birthday, a day that some people, you know what, I just want to have a relaxing day. Some people take the day off. Some people go to work. I think last year we had Sonica and Steven on to review Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumania. Even though the movie wasn't amazing or great, that was a day that we decided to record on my birthday. And I think it's a telling that at this point, right, 218 episodes in, we're still loving this. We will do this on our birthday because we love this so much.
Yeah, I mean, you even asked me, "You sure you want to record on your birthday?" I was like, "Yeah, why not?
Why not? What am I doing?
Just being a father,
Yeah.
like 1,500 other million things." No, but that's just a testament that I wouldn't be here unless this is a good time. I mean, we have fun doing this. This is great. I love spending my week. I love doing this every week.
We have so much fun doing this each and every week, and we have what people we talk to because of this podcast that we probably would not have talked to otherwise. It's quite incredible. And then I mean, we were we went to college together, and then I left, and then you were doing your own thing, and then we started both working at Wesh, but we were working at Wesh, but not the same shift. And then as soon as we started working the same shift, then this came out of it. Box Office Bingers came out of it, and now we're probably inching about close to 4.5 years on doing this podcast. It's crazy.
Yeah, November will be 5.
It's crazy.
November will be 5 years. No,
5 years. Yes.
Yeah, 2019.
Yeah,
November 2019. So it'll be 5 years. Wow, that's ridiculous.
That's crazy.
It's kind of crazy to think about.
Think about how many things that you can say you've done for 5 years.
That's true. That's true.
Like you know how many how many things we've talked about and it never came to fruition, or like even hobbies that we decided to do that we started that for a couple of days, couple of weeks, couple of months, maybe a year or two, and then all of a sudden it didn't work out. My diet didn't even work out as far as 5 years. So like at this point we lasted for about maybe 6 months or so. We were doing pretty well there for about 6 months, and then I got lazy again. So but we're gonna get back to it. We've been talking about it, me and myself and I.
Well, now you need to give yourself more credit, because
That's
you
true.
are even if you stopped, you are still in a better place than before you started your diet.
That is true. That is
You're
true.
even though you're not in full diet mode, you still make better choices now than you did pre-diet. So you got to give yourself
correct.
a little bit of credit, so you can
That is-
it'll
that
help
is-
you inch back towards where you need to be.
Yes, I will say I have been developing better eating habits since the diet
it's
that I was
fantastic.
on. So, but yeah, it's crazy to think about that. We've been doing this for 5 years, and now it's your birthday. Another year has gone by, and we're still doing this thing, and we're going to keep doing this thing as long as they keep making movies. And last time I checked, even though some movies are not making money, we're still going to be watching them regardless, because it doesn't matter how much money they make. It's a matter if it's good or not.
We talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly.
There you go. And with that, Ernesto, tell our lovely listeners what movie we are reviewing this week.
We are reviewing The Fall Guy, starring Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Hannah Waddingham, and Winston Duke. Directed by David Leitch, who directed Atomic Blonde, Deadpool 2, Fast and the Furious, Hobbs and Shaw, and Bullet Train. Written by Drew Pearce, who wrote Iron Man 3, Hotel Artemis, and back again with David Leitch from Fast and the Furious, Hobbs and Shaw. This is a film that's based off of a popular 1980s TV series, and as it was introed, it is a love letter to Hollywood stunt work, and that's basically what the movie was. And I think it's going to be a fun conversation later, kind of diving into that.
Yeah, and even looking at his repertoire, I mean, I'm looking at his IMDb page right now, and he has been in the movie world for years, and so I'm going all the way back to 1995, and he's primarily been working in stunts and stunts coordinator, our director David Leitch. And so I'm just going to list off a few, at least some noteworthy ones. He was a stunt double for Brad Pitt in Ocean's 11. He went on to do Daredevil, Matrix Reloaded, SWAT, Matrix Revolutions, Van Helsing, Troy, Constantine, Triple X, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Serenity, Underworld. And this is he's been around next with Nicolas Cage, The Bourne Ultimatum. The list goes on. Jumper, keep going. Speed Racer, X-Men Origins, Wolverine, Angels and Demons, The Hangover, Ninja Assassin, Tron Legacy. I mean, Conan the Barbarian, In Time. He's been around for quite some time. Even the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, the live-action one that came out in 2014. All of that before he even became a director. And so it's crazy that he's been around so much, and his first movie was Atomic Blonde that he directed in 2017. And so it's just crazy to think about what this movie represents, a love letter to stunt work, and what a perfect director to do that after a couple of movies under his belt already, and then come out with this movie to do that. So no matter how the movie is, this is just incredible that he was able to do that for himself. That's just looking outside of the movie as a whole.
And it's definitely showcased within the film itself.
Yeah, but before we dive into all of that, of course, we're going to be talking about what we've been watching. But before we get into that, man, Ernesto, it's been 2 weeks since we talked about news. And needless to say, there's a lot that happened within that 2 weeks.
The news has been feeling neglected, apparently.
Yeah. And now today, it's wait a minute, guys. We got some things to talk about. First of which, excuse me, is Warner Brothers Discovery announces a new Lord of the Rings movie titled The Hunt for Gollum for a 2026 release. Andy Serkis, who famously played Gollum in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, will return to star as the iconic character, as well as direct the film, which for me is very exciting. The Lord of the Rings and Hobbit trilogy filmmaker Peter Jackson will return to produce, along with his partners Fran Welsh and Philip Bowens. teaming up once again to write and produce the film. The project is currently in the early stages of script development, with Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav saying the team will be involved every step of the way and exploring storylines yet to be told. Ernesto, I know you've recently read the books, watched the movies, and you have a different appreciation for this whole series. How do you feel about this project?
I think this is fantastic. What I love about this is that we're not going to go, hey, let's redo these 3 epic movies that are so iconic in our society. Lord of the Rings. Excuse me, Harry Potter. It's Harry actually Potter, what I meant to say. Fucked my own joke up. Either way. I think this is fantastic news. I think Andy Serkis is a fantastic director. I mean, his motion cap work is fucking iconic. AKA Gollum. Caesar from Planet of the Apes, which we're going to be exploring Planet of the Apes next week in next week's show. But I'm excited. I'm totally excited for this. I think this is going to be great. I'm curious of what basis this has from what books. Because there's backstory in there, but I wonder how much is going to be sourced from the original trilogy, or how much is going to be sourced from all the other miscellaneous books that are out there, and if there's one that they're actually going to be directly pulling from, or how true is this lore to the mythology of Lord of the Rings. That's really where my curiosity lies.
Yeah, and I also, for me, even though I don't know much about the world, I need to go back and invest a lot of the time and energy into it. But I don't know when this would take place. Was this before Lord of the Rings? Is this after?
Obviously, take place before, or maybe in between some of the books.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Unless he lived.
I don't.
Unless, obviously, which is not spoiler alert. Gollum most definitely does not live at the end of that movie. Like, if he came back, that'd be spoiler alert.
Yeah, it might ruin the rest of the film series for sure. So maybe something happening between The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings movies. I mean, who knows where? I mean, it says the hunt for Gollum. So what is he hunting? Is he being hunted? If we're trying to read into the title here. But I also like that it's not Peter Jackson directing the movie, because he's directed all 3 Lord of the Rings. He also directed the Hobbit movies. Not to say that he's a bad director, but every now and then you want some fresh blood into the mix. And so I think that Andy Serkis, who's been involved with this character and for this franchise for so long, I think he's a perfect choice to kind of spearhead it, since he's also had some directing movies underneath his belt. I believe he did Mowgli. That was a Netflix movie. That's an adaptation of The Jungle Book. And then he also did Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Not the greatest movies in the world, but at least he's known how to direct a movie. And I feel like there's some passion behind this one that can really turn it around to be something really good.
I mean, I literally listened to all 3 audiobooks narrated by Andy Serkis. So I would say that he has some investment into this character.
I would say so.
I think, him returning back to one of his most legendary characters, I think there's some weight to be put on him when reintroducing this character to the world, and like, what else are you going to bring to it? What are you going to bring to it now that maybe necessarily wasn't there the first time around, or what would you change? Right. Or are you going to change it at all? It's just interesting, especially when we return to, such an iconic franchise.
Yeah, and so much so that we just as right before we recorded, they just announced that the trailer for Lord of the Rings: The Rings of Power Season 2 will be dropping in a couple of days. So by the time some of you are reading the trailers, some of you are watching or listening, the trailer's already out. But like, Lord of the Rings is still alive and well, and so this is just another way to keep it going. But I also like this path. I like that it's not a retelling, like you just explained with Harry Potter. They're not planning to do a 7-season TV series based off the stuff we've already seen from the movies. Granted, they claim that they were going to see it be a faithful adaptation, and I'm sure a lot of people are excited for that. But for me, I'm like, no, you have the books and you have the movies. Let's explore other things in the Wizarding world. There's so many things you can explore. Yes. And I like that at least Lord of the Rings is doing that, because it's still holding true to the book source material as well as the movies themselves, because there's nothing wrong with them. A lot of people consider this as perfection. Like, these are great adaptations that should not be replicated again. So that's just me. But I like the direction Lord of the Rings is going, and it's interesting that they're both from Warner Brothers. So like they're both going different directions under the same umbrella. So
very cool.
Anyway, I am excited to see what Andy Serkis can do with his character that he's made very famous for.
And you know what? I'm excited, but also conflicted about our next piece of news. So, Matthew, it is our boy, Mike Flanagan. The horror maestro, Mike Flanagan, from Haunting on Hill House, Bly Manor, Midnight Mass, Fall of the House of Usher, and Dr. Sleep, is reportedly in talks to direct the next Exorcist movie for Blumhouse and Universal Pictures. If he accepts, this would continue Flanagan's relationship with Blumhouse. After working on previous films such as Oculus, Hush, and Ouija, The Origin of Evil, Flanagan will pick up the reins from David Gordon Green, who directed Exorcist the Believer, in the first in a planned trilogy of movies based on the William Friedkin's 1973 horror classic. David Gordon Green, who also directed Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends from Blumhouse, stepped away from directing the next Exorcist film due to wanting to prioritize other projects after working on Believer, which underperformed at the box office. That's an understatement, to say the least, and received mixed reviews from critics. Yeah, I think that this is a well welcomed pivot. I mean, Mike Flanagan, to me, at least currently, he is one of the masters of horror. He's just his level of storytelling for what he can bring into the horror genre is really incredible. How invested he was able to get us into this Edgar Allan Poe world with Fall of the House of Usher, which if you haven't seen it, you are missing out on your life. Like what excellent pieces of television. I think you can just tell how much care he puts into all his projects. So if this does come to fruition, I'm totally excited. I'm looking forward to literally anything Mike Flanagan touches next. I'm all here for it. Like, to me, as to date, he has yet to do me wrong.
So to your point, I am also 50-50 with this news because Mike Flanagan, he's our boy. We love everything he's done with everything that he did with Netflix, all the shows you just mentioned, some of his original stuff, his adaptations, the passion and the care he puts into his projects. But then you say The Exorcist, and you're like, well, I really hope he's able to turn it around for me, because The Exorcist, I've seen the 1973 classic, and I didn't really care for it, to be honest with you. And then this one was blasted. The Exorcist Believer was not. I mean, it said mixed reviews. I think it was poorly reviewed, in my opinion.
They shit all over the movie about how bad it was.
They really did. I don't think it made anything at the box office. It was hugely underperformed, and honestly, David Gordon Green is probably making a good decision not to continue with the path that he's been going down, because he did the 2018 Halloween, which everybody loved because it was basically a kind of a retelling of the original Halloween, but with a modern twist to it. And then he gave us Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, and it was not good. Those are not good movies. At the end of the day, and that was a huge disappointment, given the first one was so good. And so then from there, he went from directing a trilogy of Halloween movies to theoretically planning to direct a trilogy of Exorcist movies, doing the same method of you're taking the first movie and then you're having a direct sequel with this new planned trilogy. And we even talked about this before. That's like, an Exorcist trilogy? Do we really need that right now?
The answer is
no.
Then
the answer is no. And then Believer came out. We didn't think it was going to be good. We didn't even bother reviewing it or watching it because it wasn't well received. And then we saw how bad it did. The box office numbers reflected that. And then we're like, well, I guess this doesn't deserve our attention at all. But now all of a sudden, well, Mike Flanagan said he might be involved, and you're like, whoa, hold up a minute, what? Do I have to watch the first one first, or can I just go straight into the new one? That's all I'm saying. Can I just start with the new one? Because this honestly has my attention now. This is very intriguing that Mike Flanagan, out of all the projects he could be doing, decides to pair up with Blumhouse yet again to do an Exorcist movie. So now he must have an idea. Like, I mean, look how he also had an interesting sequel for Doctor Sleep, which was a sequel to The Shining.
Which I liked.
So like,
which I actually really enjoyed.
It was a solid movie for me. It wasn't my favorite from him, but I thought it was pretty solid. So like, he definitely can bring an interesting, bring his flair to this franchise. It's definitely needed. So I mean, time will tell.
I mean, The Exorcist is such an iconic horror franchise. Like if somebody it's like to me, that's like, you know, maybe how somebody handed him Edgar Allan Poe, like what it means to the horror, what it means to the genre as a whole. Like, yeah, it's one of those defining films that help define horror cinema, like in general. So if somebody hands you that project and says, "Hey, fix this," and you know, how honored would you be? So I can totally see him picking up the project. I'm just like you. I'm very conflicted on the Exorcist series. Like it's whatever. And then I'm not fully sold on like demonic possession movies. They just like The Exorcist and Emily Rose. There's just something that is just very unsettling about them. Right? I'm just saying.
Yeah, I feel like for me, it's also, it's like if you've seen one, you've seen them all type of deal. True. It's like to me, they haven't really brought anything interesting to these movies, at least this type of movie. And you know, one could say the same thing with like the horror slashers, like you know we were getting with those as well. So
who's the killer? Who's the killer until we can find out who it is, and then we get the exposition.
The whodunit. Yeah. Right. Yeah, and so like most of these movies are following a similar plot line. But anyway, all of this to say, Mike Flanagan, he has our respect. 100%. So of course we're at least gonna watch the trailer and go from there. But maybe even further, just watch the movie itself.
Oh, I'm gonna watch it. If he signs on, I won't even watch the trailer. I don't want to get, even though as much as we go to the theaters, I'm sure at some point, like I get forced into watching trailers. Like I no longer seek trailers because every time I go to the movies, they get forced upon me, which is whatever. That's fine.
It is what it is. But also what I do is I just like, I just go on my phone. Like I'm just like, I'm looking at my phone. I can hear it. I'm fine hearing it. I just don't want to see it. Because like in some trailers, like because about toward the end, like especially when the movie's about to come out, they just start throwing in new scenes, and like I don't want to see all that. I want to wait to see it in the theater. So actually, Fall Guy was a big one that I looked down for.
Yeah, all the time. That trailer was
all the time.
Gosh, it was stuff like every movie. It didn't matter what movie was coming out. It was attached to every single one I saw. Gosh.
And it was there was the longest trailer ever that we just keep throwing out a whole bunch of scenes. And then when you watch the movie, that the whole movie's in that trailer. It was all there. So yeah, I mean, Universal, do better with your trailers. Don't give us the whole movie. That's all I'm saying. But anyway,
I hear you. Hold on. I just have to comment on one point you make. Matthew, are you telling me that when the trailers start, you are on your cell phone? Once the lights have dimmed and you sat through that the messaging about being on your phone.
Oh, the messaging saying like, "Hey, turn off your phones" and everything. Once the lights go dim, then the phone goes in the pocket when the movie starts. But during the trailer, I mean, me being on my phone is not the worst thing you're going to see in that theater. Yeah, people walking up, people yelling at each other, people trying to find their seats.
Yelling at each other? What is happening in your theaters? Okay, where are you going to watch movies? I said sit down. Give me the popcorn.
Well, maybe not yelling, but people are like, they're having a good time. Like, they don't go to the theaters often as much as we do. Look, we're just trying to see a movie. And sometimes we have to go on a Saturday afternoon and that's not the time I want to go to the theater because it's no, thank you. I'm a Monday morning type of guy. That's the theater I like.
First showing of the day, that 11 a.m. showing, there's nobody there. It's like, let me just stroll on in. Oh, I don't like my seat. I guess I'll pick another since I'm the only one booked in this theater right now.
Oh, you know what? I don't like this row. I'll pick a different row that no one's in.
Come.
Yes.
No one sit next to me. Oh, there's no one in here.
or you go as far as like you sit in a row and then someone sits in the same row. I was like, why'd you do that? We have this whole theater to
Wait.
ourselves. Why are we picking the same row? Okay, get. I'm gonna move to the row up or down because you ruined you and my feng shui at this point.
I got one even better. So not only that is they sit either the row in front of you or behind you, and they're always 1 or 2 seats or almost directly behind you. It's like you could have sit literally anywhere else. It's like that's my seat. It's like so when you picked your seat, you saw that I was here, and you said that's where I want to sit.
right there. I'm not sure if you've seen the meme out there, but I've seen it every couple, a few times, and to me it cracks me up. But there was one person in the theater, and the caption goes, "I'm gonna make this guy my movie buddy," and he picked the seat right next to him. I'm not afraid to get up and go to another seat. Like because especially if it's empty, it's like there's no reason why we have to do this. We can all be adults here. No one's in this theater. I'm gonna go and move over, and yeah. Anyway, the theater problems as we have each and every week.
Fun times.
What we talked about? I totally forgot.
We were talking about Mike Flanagan, and then we kind of
yeah.
stalled from there. But we can move on to the next piece of news.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Mike Flanagan. Thank you for visiting. A new comedy series set in the same universe as NBC's Emmy award-winning hit series, The Office, has been picked up for a series order at Peacock. Shocker. The new series will be developed by original show creator Greg Daniels and Nathan For You co-creator Michael Coman. While the project is still untitled, we know it's a new mockumentary series with the official log line stating the new mockumentary series. The official log line reading the documentary crew that immortalized Dunder Mifflin's Scranton branch is in search of a new subject when they discover a dying historic Midwestern newspaper and the publisher trying to revive it with volunteer reporters. Domhnall Gleeson, he played General Hux in Star Wars, Bill Weasley in Harry Potter, and he was also in About Time and Ex Monica, and Sabrina Impacto.
I was going to see if you were going to try it. So I believe it's Sabrina Impaccatori.
Okay, yeah, I was way off.
Impacciatori because it's CC, so maybe.
She was in the White Lotus in season 1. She was the hotel, the front lobby manager, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, those two actors will lead an ensemble cast when the series begins production in July. Took me a while to get there, but we got there. I think this is an interesting way to stay in the world of The Office. And obviously this is a spin-off, but we're set in the same world and doing something that's not a direct sequel to it and something that kind of makes sense, because you could have easily went on and maybe picked a few people to continue the Office series, or you could have easily just done a different newspaper company if you want to go that far. But I think using your through line as the documentary crew is trying to find a new subject. I like that. That feels somewhat original and organic to the world that's already exists in The Office. Now it just comes to the comedic chops of these two leads and see if this show has any legs to stand on.
I don't know. I'm intrigued because very similar to The Office, the intrigue of The Office was that it was a paper company in the immense of when the internet was becoming a massive success. So,
right.
But now here we are, where it is the internet again, but affecting another facet. So a newspaper, like news. I think that's really fascinating, and I think that they have avenues to kind of. I don't know. This has potential to be something. I could see this being something again, because I think the magic that they were able to create with the first one, with the setting that they put them in, I think it seems like they're going to recreate that again. I'll say this. I'll be surprised if this fails.
I honestly, I wouldn't be too surprised as if it failed, because I'm pretty sure that we have. Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm looking up his IMDb right now. He is responsible for he's responsible for The Office, and then he went on to executive produce Parks and Rec. Mm-hmm. So like great track record between those two shows, both notorious for having a rough first season, but then finding its footing and finding the comedy it needs to be. Following suit from that, after the two successes, he went on to do Space Force, which was not a good series on Netflix. And we had talked about it when it came out. It lasted 2 seasons. I never even watched the second season because of how bad the first season was.
I watched 5 minutes of the first episode and I go, nope, not doing this again.
Yeah. But he's also responsible for Upload, the Amazon Prime series that was a great first season, in my opinion. I really enjoyed it. The second season did not live up to the first. The third season is already out, and yet I haven't even started it yet, given the fact that the second season was not as great as the first season. So
we started the third season, and then we stopped watching.
Oh, wow. Was it that bad?
We got like 2 episodes in and we were like, do you still want to watch this? And we were both like, no, I'm good. We're good on this. Like the show has lost its appeal. Like they should have ended it with season 2. They could have had a really strong first season, and they could have wrapped up whatever it is they were going to try to do in season 3. I'll never know because I'll probably won't go back to it. But I just, know, they could have wrapped up whatever they're going to do there all into the second season, and it probably would have been more enjoyable. We just got into it, and it just became repetitive. Well, Matthew, now I'm worried.
Yeah. I mean, this is life after The Office and Parks and Rec. So now he's trying again with this series. I'm not saying it's bad. Maybe you can go back to familiar roots and get your comedy. But I think also a lot of what made this show great was the characters. Steve Carell, John Krasinski, like Ryan Wilson, I believe his name was.
Rainn Wilson.
Rainn Wilson, thank you. Like, they made this show, the crew, the cast, the ensemble. That's what made the show. And I'm sure they were assisting in a lot of the jokes that made it special and have these episodes written in a way that is just consistently funny. Honestly, the roles that I had listed, from Star Wars to Harry Potter to Ex Monica to... Thank you. To the White Lotus, I'm never gonna say it right. I said it right that one time, and it's on record. And then after that, we're done. And then the White Lotus, those aren't comedies. Like, so these aren't really like known comedians, and they could prove me wrong. I don't know, but I mean,
when I look at him, all I think about is him screaming, "It's a new world order." like start from Star Wars. That's all I see. I don't even see him from Harry Potter. Like, the fact that you said that, I'm like, oh shit, that is the Weasley. Like, I didn't even connect it. I'd never connected it before.
Fun fact, he is very much like Chris Pratt. He's on both theme parks here in Orlando. Chris Pratt is featured in the Guardians of the Galaxy ride and the Velocicoaster at Universal, and then Donald Gleason. No, not Donald Gleason. What's his name? Donald Gleason.
Dom Gleason.
Domhnall Gleason.
Yeah, we're gonna go with that.
Yeah. Okay. Either way, he is both in the Star Wars Rise of the Resistance attraction at Hollywood Studios, and he is in the Escape to Gringotts attraction over at Universal. So, like, they like using him. He's not a comedian to me. So, but either way, I'm interested. Obviously, I mean, it's definitely a show I'm going to give a watch. I think a lot of people are going to be interested in this. I think the more that it the more that it makes itself different from The Office, thank you, from The Office, the better, in my opinion. As long as like the jokes and the style of The Office stays, and then you just put it in a different setting, it could work.
I am curious. I do think it has potential. I see potential there. Just based off the setting that they're putting them in, there's already so much there just on the premise alone, not even the characters are going to put in. But that, you feel the same way. That's the same sentiment, kind of how I explained earlier about the original The Office series was. But I also felt the same way about Space Force. I was like, oh, there's enough there for it to be funny. And then it wasn't. And then it wasn't funny.
It was not at all. So, I mean, so far, I'll give Peacock credit. they did greenlight the Ted series that just recently got renewed for a season 2.
Fantastic.
And
Surprisingly
it is
fantastic.
hilarious. Surprisingly so funny. Honestly, like I know we're inching toward halfway through the year, kind of. We're kind of early May, so maybe not. But regardless, 5 months in, like that Ted has been my top show I've seen this year so far.
It's up there.
Like not the top, but one of my top
No,
shows
yeah, I
because
agree.
it was consistently funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. It was surprising how good that one actually was. Well, hopefully
Yeah.
I feel that
So
way
we'll
about this
see.
one.
Yeah, seriously. But also, like, if they say the production's going to be in July, we should probably have an early 2025
Spring,
maybe spring of next year on this series. So it's coming sooner rather than later if they're already starting production in July.
True. All right, let's move on to some Marvel news. After much speculation, the villain of Marvel's upcoming Fantastic Four film will be Galactus. Holler. Hopefully they don't one movie villain him, because Galactus,
Yes.
and this is just a sidebar, Galactus himself is just such an iconic villain that if they do that to him, they will fuck up the MCU forever. Because you take out Galactus like that in one movie, like nobody's going to have trust in you. Side note, anyway. The cosmic entity known as the Devourer of Worlds. Galactus will be played by prolific British actor Ralph Ineson, who has a long list of film and TV credits that include playing Amicus Carroll in the final 3 Harry Potter films, William in The Witch, Dagmar Cleftjaw in the Game of Thrones, and many more. Marvel has also cast John Malkovich and Paul Walter Heiser in yet to be announced roles, which I think I think I would have to. I don't really remember this guy, the Ralph Ineson. I'd have to like really look at him in like character pictures to remember him. But obviously, I know who John Malkovich and definitely know who Paul Walter Heiser is. So I'm equally as interested to see what roles they are going to be playing in this.
Right.
Whether they're going to be villains or whether they're going to be maybe side characters to be evolved later. Very interesting. This news comes just 1 month after Julia Gardner was cast as an alternate version of the Silver Surfer. The Marvel's Fantastic Four will hit theaters July 25th, 2025. I think this is all exciting news.
Yeah, I have a feeling, and I don't know why they wouldn't announce it because of these yet to be announced roles. But I figure I think more leaning toward Paul Walter Hauser might be a voice character. I feel like that he might be the voice of the robot that we saw in the art that when they announced the main cast. I forgot the robot's name, but I feel like that either him or even maybe John Malkovich could probably be a voice of one of the two. But the fact that they're deciding not to disclose which characters they are playing definitely provides some intrigue. I just don't think, do you think that amongst everything that we're getting Galactus and a Doctor Doom in this movie? No. And I don't think so either.
But that would be too. But even if they would try, I think that would be too much. Although I could see John Malkovich maybe playing Doctor Doom.
Doctor Doom.
Like maybe they put him in now and it's to set him up for later.
Yeah, I mean, and that's fair. That's fair. I can't. I see him as a very. I'm very confused with him as an actor because sometimes I see him more of as a comedian than anything else.
I see him in both roles. Like I see he has like that dry humor, but then like he's also played like a great villain. He's like that very calculated, very I don't know what the correct term would be, but I think calculated but not necessarily cold. Maybe cold. Cold is probably a better word for it. Like I like seeing him as a villain, and this is a throwback to when he was the bad guy in Con Air with Nick Cage. Like
that's right.
He played a great bad guy. Like I don't know. He's another one of those actors that like he kind of lives off of his delivery, but it's so iconic in the roles that he gets put into that it works for that. But I could hear that, and I mean even with like a robotic thing added to it as a version of Doctor Doom.
Yeah, and also just keep in mind, like there were times where we were talking about, Bill Murray is in the new Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumania in an undisclosed role, and guess what that was? Nothing.
Yeah, it was nothing.
I couldn't even tell you the character's name. because it was more of a glorified cameo than anything else in that movie. So
Yeah, I don't want that.
Unfortunately, because we've seen it done in the past before, it could be a similar situation where they were able to get these legendary actors to play such a small role that seems insignificant to the rest of the film. Hopefully that's not the case, and we can use these characters for further on because these are great actors. But we'll see. I do feel like one of them is a voice actor in a scenario. But I don't know. Maybe we keep saying villains. Maybe they're part of the good guys. Maybe they're helpers. I don't know. It's interesting. I do like I do like the cast of people that they're bringing in. But I also think that bringing in Ralph Ineson. I think that's an interesting choice, because even the characters that he's played is very, like, I think you're right. That's more of a, I like the word you use, cold. I know you described it for John Malkovich, but I feel like that could be very similar to maybe Ralph as well. And I feel like that, from what I remember from his performance, because when I first saw him, I was like, I don't quite remember him in, like, distinctly in anything specific. And then when you saw the list, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I remember his face. I remember part of the character, but not a big thing. But I think that's perfect.
That's good,
because I think that's good. The fact that I don't know him distinctly for anything could give him the freedom to play a really menacing Galactus if need be, and give him the range and maybe less pressure on some of the decisions that he makes, because he's known for this to be an actor. So I think Marvel has done best for casting someone unknown or up and coming, or the actors that haven't really got the huge break that make him known for something specific, and then turning those actors into actors that are now known for that role. And then all of a sudden now they became this A-lister that gets multiple roles after they've done a successful Marvel movie. So I really hope they're taking their time. And I think with this movie, because of their track record Marvel's had in the last couple of years. And what was interesting, that I read an article saying that Bob Iger was saying that they want to reduce the amount of content, which we've known before. And then they were like, well, we want to limit to about 2 shows a year and 3 movies a year when it comes to Marvel. And the article that I read made an interesting point. It's like, okay, so you said that's what you want to do, yet in 2025 you have 4 Marvel movies coming out. So you're already negating what you just said, that you want 3 movies and 2 shows. And for some people that could already still be a lot.
That's
3 movies,
still quite a bit.
It's still quite a bit of content that you're trying to pump out. I think we can reduce it to maybe 2 and 2. So we'll see on that, and see, hopefully, with Deadpool and Wolverine coming up, a lot of hype around it. A lot of eyes are going to be on this movie, because this Deadpool and Wolverine will be the first movie after everything that's been going wrong with Marvel, to see if we can start going back on the uppity up with Marvel and, making great movies again that everyone can get excited about. And I hope that Deadpool and Wolverine starts that, and then the Fantastic Four can continue it. But we also have a whole bunch of other movies in the way between those two as well. So I think also with the casting of the Silver Surfer, it makes sense that the Galactus would be in this movie as well.
Agreed.
So with that, we moving on, sticking somewhat with Disney and Marvel. Well, not with Marvel, but with Disney. Disney Entertainment and Warner Brothers Discovery have announced a new streaming bundle that includes Disney Plus, Hulu, and Max. First of all, wow.
Yeah.
That this is kind of big news in terms of streaming. Beginning this summer in the U.S., the streaming services will be offered together, providing subscribers with what they say the best value in entertainment and unprecedented selection of content from the biggest and beloved brands in entertainment, including ABC, CNN, DC, Discovery, Disney, Food Network, FX, HBO, HDTV, Hulu, Marvel, Pixar, Searchlight, Warner Brothers, and many more. The new bundle will be available for purchase on any of the 3 streaming platforms' websites, and offered both as an ad-supported and ad-free plan. Additional details regarding the bundle offer, as well as its monthly fee, will be shared in the coming months. I think this is very telling of where the streaming services plan is maybe moving forward.
Yeah, it's just very clear that, hey, so this model that you thought was initially profitable, it seems like it's not, because we've diverted away from cable and in a roundabout way have come back to cable, where we're paying for a service of a bunch of different things to be put together so that we don't have to pay for them individually. That's literally what this is, which is, you know what? I think we all knew that at a certain point that this is what was going to happen. So for those of us who like to have all the streaming services, this is obviously a fantastic thing. But my question is, so let's say there's certain ones that, depending on which cell phone carrier you get for free, like AT&T, you get Max for free. I don't remember if Disney has one or what. I know that like if you have Walmart Plus, like if you have Walmart, then you get Paramount. I think you get free Paramount. Like different companies, some of them offer free streaming. So how does that play into these bundles?
I mean, you make a valid point. It almost feels like that you need to have none of those things for this to benefit you. And if you do have, like, if you already subscribe to the Disney Plus Hulu bundle, like, well, now what? Like, you've already paid that monthly subscription, so now you have to go and reapply. What if you're paying for Max separately in the Disney Plus bundle? I mean, I guess you are going to have to cancel one of them and subscribe to a bigger bundle at that point. And also how this works. I mean, I'm assuming very similar to the Disney Plus and Hulu bundle, these accounts are going to be separate, but under the same entity of sorts. So I do find it interesting. Also, the another article that I was reading was kind of stating this is kind of already established in a way this whole time. Like if you go to Hulu, you can have add-ons, the same with Amazon and the same with Apple. You can have add-ons to it, so you can have Apple TV Plus but have Max as an add-on through Apple, and the same for Hulu. If you have Hulu but you want Max as an add-on, you can do that, and they do the same thing for the streaming services, and the same for Amazon. If you have Amazon Prime and you want an add-on to Starz or Max or Disney Plus, you can do that. So technically all the billing is in one place, but it's not technically bundled. You're still paying for it separately. It's just being billed through one account instead of billed through separate accounts. So something like that's kind of already happening. It's just Disney and Warner Brothers are kind of now officially coming together to say, hey, why don't you just pay for one price and you have all of these? And what's funny is that we talked about this before. What makes the music streaming services so successful in a way is that they all offer the same thing. You pay for the subscription, you get all of most of the music you want to listen to. And so like with Apple and Google and Spotify and even Amazon, they all basically offer the same thing. It just becomes to a preference of where you want to listen to your music. And then some offer other things like maybe specific playlists or designs or whatever the case may be. And then the movies and the TV shows always struggled because they're owned by different movie studios and they want to keep it separate. So now they're not technically banding together. They're just deciding to make it easier for the consumer and make it more appealing for maybe people who don't have this to maybe jump on board to have now both if you had one or the other. But it is interesting to see that we're going down this path, and if any other streaming services might hop on board with what they're doing.
I'm sure. Eventually they'll come to a point where they're all going to come together and see the value in combining forces. And then what if we get to a point where they all decide, hey, why don't we all come together and make one big app that kind of like very similar to what you were explaining, like Spotify, like an app that just sources all our content from our streaming sites. But it's a one-stop shop for everybody. And then then whatever you stream, that service gets the cut from that.
Right. And what's interesting that you say about that is that technically if you own an Apple TV, which I do, they kind of already do that for you. Like they have their Apple Hub where they collect all your different streaming services and they tell you like new episodes are from here and there, and you can choose to do it through the Apple interface, or you can go to each app individually and do it that way. So like it's kind of there in a way, but now the streaming services are kind of getting on board of what maybe people have been wanting this entire time.
What if you had that interface and that interconnectivity between all the apps like the Apple interface offers, but then Apple said, hey, you pay us this much and you get all your streaming services, and maybe even if it comes out to even if like insignificantly less, it's like it ends up being like maybe $5 cheaper to do it through them than if you were to pay and go through them individually. How much more ease would it be to just have everything there in one place? You don't have to skip around. Like all your stuff is there for you right there.
Yeah.
And then you only pay one person. You pay one person and they take care of the rest.
Right. And then you can form an acronym and call it cable.
It's almost like we've done this before.
It's almost like this is where we started almost.
But I know everybody wants to cut the cord with cable, but I think like nobody wants to cut the ease of what cable offered. We just didn't want to pay the astronomical prices that they were offering when the services weren't that good. Now, if they were offering like streaming service level content like how we're getting now, then I think cable would have survived with no issues.
Absolutely.
And plus the flexibility of being able to pick instead of being chain linked to, okay, well, it's coming on at this time, and I have to be here to watch it, or I have to pay the company a service to record it for me so then I can watch it later.
Yes. Yeah, and also what's crazy about, when you think about it, like at the beginning, the biggest draw to these streaming services not only was the content, but also the large library of content that they have in these streaming service, as well as no ads. That was the big thing. The main thing you were paying for was not to have ads during your shows and your movies, which was cable was how they made their revenue. And they were able to sustain that for only so long. And so now they're like, well, if you want the ads, we need you to pay more. And then we're also going to have an ad-supported tier for the same price you were already paying. And then you're like, okay, fine, I'll pay the ad. And then there's like 2 minutes of commercials every 20 minutes. You're like, well, now I don't want that.
It's like, so it's like watching regular TV. Got it.
It's like regular TV. Now I just get to choose the time I watch it instead of having the DVR it. I got you. And the difference is with a DVR, I can fast forward through the commercials. Now you sneaky son of a bitches. Now I can't do that.
It's like fast forward. It just shows you your time. It's like, nope, stay here. You have to watch.
Yep.
Look away. Go on your phone. Like, I don't care. You're watching this ad.
It's just over the years, and every now and then we have these, I feel like almost once a month we have a streaming conversation because I feel like it's just constantly changing. And it's kind of humorous in the way of how it's developing. But I'm here for it because this is where the good content is. It's no lying about that. There's good TVs here.
I mean, there's so much content that you won't even have enough time in your life to watch everything that you would want to watch, because that's not even including everything that's coming out plus all the amazing shit that's already out right now.
Right, all the stuff that you wanted to watch, didn't watch, all the stuff that got all the awards and never paid it any attention to, like like you were raving about Better Call Saul, and I for me that's like way over there, and yet I want to watch it, but there's so much. There's like 10 new shows each week.
See, but the great part is like I'm kind of in the middle right now. So, and I have for my Whatcha Watchin, and it's good. It's actually great that you brought that up. So I have one show that's a really old show that's completely done that I'm currently binging, and then I have a show that just came out that I'm currently binging as well. But it's nice to be able to enjoy both things. And
that's
like
true.
Better Call Saul is not going anywhere, and whenever you do decide to watch it, it will still be amazing. So,
yeah, it will still be there too, and I will pay that streaming service a monthly fee, so I always have the option to watch it whenever I want to in about 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, exactly.
So sticking with the subject of streaming services and movie studios, Paramount has been in the conversation for a couple of months now. Of like, basically the question is, who's going to buy it? Because Paramount's up for sale, apparently, and a lot of people want to own this. And the latest person is Sony. Sony Pictures and investment firm Apollo Global Management have submitted an all-cash offer of $26 billion with a B to acquire Paramount Global. The New York Times reports that Sony and Apollo sent a letter that serves as a non-binding expression of investment that would make Sony a significant majority controlling shareholder and Apollo the minority shareholder. The bid, which would include an assumption of debt that could be negotiated will be a premium over the company's current $22 billion enterprise value. So basically, they're willing to pay $4 billion more than what Paramount is worth. If the acquisition goes through, Sony effectively will absorb Paramount's operations and brand them as part of Sony's empire. In addition to Paramount Pictures, Paramount has a slew of TV channels under its umbrella, including Nickelodeon, CBS, Comedy Central, Showtime, and MTV, as well as the streaming service Paramount Plus. Sony is currently the only major entertainment studio without a streaming service. This news comes after negotiations of an offer from Skydance Media are set to expire. And some people say, no, Sony has Stars. Well, technically, Stars is not a streaming service. No. Stars is a premium channel that you can choose to buy a monthly fee for, and then they also have original shows and programming, but it's not a streaming service. Some people might assume that it is because it's the same model like you would get any streaming service, but it's technically not. It's a channel that you can get on cable as a premium.
They do have an app that works. They have an app that works like significantly for like that works like Netflix, but I don't know if they have anything that's like app exclusive, like streaming service exclusive.
Yeah, no, I think anything you can watch on the Stars channel is on the app. Like, if anything, the app is more of an on-demand service than it is a streaming service. And they also offer original programming, but I think they also air it. Like, HBO is still an option for you to buy as a premium channel that airs these shows, and then they also have Max as a streaming service. Well, actually, that's a great example. HBO is a premium channel. Max is the streaming service that has all the content of HBO.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
So with that, Sony, we talked about that Warner Brothers might have been interested in buying Paramount. It seems that conversation is no longer happening. So now Sony's looking to purchase Paramount. That's technically one more movie studio, if Paramount is purchased, that is no longer going to be available.
Yeah. It would be sad to see Paramount go. I mean, it's such an iconic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the iconic mountain with the stars. I feel like it's such an iconic studio for us not to see from. But I think this would be, in my personal opinion, I think this is a smart move for Sony. They need for them to hop into the streaming game. Like, Sony movies are amazing. Like, I love their cameras. Like, my camera on the side is a Sony camera. I just love their work. I mean, Across the Spider-Verse, their animated movies are on point. Like they've come out with some bangers. So why shouldn't they? They have enough content to support a streaming service. Plus all the shit that they would gain from Paramount. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, and what's crazy is that Sony, what's funny is that Sony has been the only major studio so far that, because they don't have a streaming service, that just kind of just like, all right, Netflix, you can have the first run deal on all my movies, and then Disney, you can have the second run. So like, these movies are going to, like, they're big ones. Most of them are going to Netflix first after their theatrical run. And then shortly after, if Disney wants any of them, it goes to Disney, and then eventually it will hit back into Stars. But Netflix, they signed a deal with Netflix to make sure they get all their first run movies. And what's interesting about that is that Lionsgate signed with Sony for Stars to get all their first run movies. So like, what's going on with that? But yeah, I do think it's a smart move for Sony if they want to continue to invest into like the streaming world, the entertainment world. Obviously they do with their gaming systems, their movie studios, obviously the cameras. So like, it to me is just sad that Paramount is looking to go, and that's one less place that we can get variety when it comes to content. I mean, we lost it with 20th Century Fox, now owned by Disney, and a lot of people lose their jobs. We lost the animation studio that gave us Ice Age, and like, those different avenues we're not going to get anymore. And so with Paramount, a very similar situation might happen. But I do think that Sony is a better avenue than, say, like Warner Brothers, when we talked about a few months ago, because Warner Brothers already has a lot that Paramount has. So like, a lot of it would just be absorbed, and then we're just losing out. Sony actually gains a lot from this brand. not only do they have a whole bunch of TV shows that they can work off of, a whole bunch of iconic brands they can utilize. The only thing that's really missing that they might be absorbing is Paramount Pictures. Like, they're not going to be the sole place to make movies anymore. But everything else they will gain from, and they can probably use a couple of the assets, and maybe Sony will then start pushing out movies of bigger brands, just like Transformers and G.I. Joe and Star Trek and all that stuff that we've seen over the years, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as well. So it's sad that it's now coming to this, that they are up for sale. But, you know, if I rather it go to Sony or even Apple, somewhere that can, you know, significantly benefit from it, rather than, like, say, Warner Brothers, who are probably just going to take away most of what they already have and keep their IPs and then move forward.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Moving on, kind of sticking with Sony news. Hasbro Entertainment has closed a deal with Sony's TriStar Pictures and Sony Pictures Television for the film and TV rights to the beloved murder mystery board game Clue. Clue has been a board game staple since its release in 1949 and has sold more than 150 million copies worldwide. We have like 2 or 3 here at the house. That's like one of our family board games. That's like one of the games that we really and truly go back to. Like, we've been playing for a long time, and my kids have seen the movie at least 100 times. Clue was previously adapted into a 1985 comedy that starred Tim Curry, Madeline Kahn, and Christopher Lloyd, among others, that, although performed poorly at the box office, has since reached a cult following. Since then, Universal attempted to develop a film version starring Ryan Reynolds, which we talked about when that news dropped, while Fox was previously developing a Clue animated series, both of which ended up getting canceled. This news comes just weeks after Hasbro made a deal with Lionsgate and Margot Robbie's Lucky Chat production company to develop and produce a Monopoly movie. This is obviously in response to that. I'm here for it. I love Clue. I think it's a fun game, and I think as long as they don't try to recreate the 1985 classic, like that movie in itself, like, you can't remake that movie. You can't remake it. Like, you kind of just need to leave it where it is.
Yeah, I it seems like Hasbro and Hasbro's been doing this for quite some time now. Has, you know, taking a lot of their iconic board games or characters that they developed and making them into movies. And so this is just another string of that. And I feel like we're getting a lot of this stuff now. We talked about, like, Monopoly. We talked about what The Sims is, like, all these different games and board games that were just are popular in their own right, are now trying to get film and TV adaptations based off them. And I feel like mainly because Barbie did so well. Barbie was a huge success based off that IP, and now they're trying to, this is what the people want. They want their board games and their dolls and their action figures into movies now. And that's not actually, to me, that's not really the case. Barbie was a unicorn in a sense.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of subjective subliminals, but meaning behind Barbie in itself as a product and as a character.
Right. And also, I think that movie is a success primarily because of Greta Gerwig, less because you put Barbie on the big screen. So it just kind of just goes to show that, like, the filmmakers behind the movie is just as important as the A-list star that you put in front of it. So if they really want this to be the next Barbie, you really got to take care of who's going to be behind the scenes on that. But the idea of these movies and TV shows existing is a fun one. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I think it'll be fine. I think, you know, they're just throwing shit at the wall and see what's gonna stick.
At this point. That honestly, you're right. That's exactly what it feels like. But it's been a really, really long time. I really don't remember the 1985 film Clue. But they can have fun with this. I mean, honestly, this is any other murder mystery that's out there on TV right now. So what is this any different?
You know what? You're right. Speaking of murder mysteries, we move on. I mean, you gave me the transition, so I just took it.
You're right. Honestly, I didn't even read it that way, but look at you.
Look at you. Sticking with that, A live-action Scooby-Doo TV series is reportedly in the works at Netflix. Greg Berlanti, the mega producer behind massive shows such as Arrow, The Flash, Riverdale, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, You, The Flight Attendant, All-American, and many others, will serve as executive producer. Josh Applebaum and Scott Rosenberg, executive producers behind Cowboy Bebop, Citadel, and High Fidelity, will write the script and also serve as executive producers. Applebaum is also responsible for writing the screenplay for Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol and the 2014 and 2016 live-action Ninja Turtle films, with Rosenberg writing the screenplay for Gone in 60 Seconds, Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, Jumanji The Next Level, and 2018's Venom. Fine, sure. I guess. Like, do we need this? Probably not. Is it weird that it's coming to Netflix and that it's not going to be on Max? It's also kind of weird.
Yes.
Like that. The fact that Universal, Universal, right? Isn't that's a Universal? That's a Warner Brothers property. Even still, that's a Warner Brothers property, and that it's not going to be there. So what does this mean as far as the character? Like, how related is it to the actual content of the franchise?
Well, it's interesting how Warner Brothers, ever since it became Warner Brothers Discovery, under that management and that CEO, David Zaslav, has been treating their IPs. A lot of the companies want to hold their IPs close and then develop out of that. Now they feel like they gain more for selling those IPs, to other people who want to make it, rather, because they get money off of that. So like they get all the money and zero risk for selling off their IP. And to me that's just an easy cash grab for them. So for them, they're probably teaming up with Netflix, or they just sold the live action Scooby-Doo television rights to Netflix, and then they can go off from there. Or because Greg Berlanti and CW, well, first of all, CW is a branch off of Warner Brothers. So they were able to develop all these DC shows, obviously, from Greg Berlanti, and he's had a slew of success off of the DC shows, as well as Riverdale and the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. And he probably had an idea, brought it to Warner Brothers, and was like, no. And then maybe Warner Brothers gave him permission to take that and maybe sell it off to somebody else, but still attach the project. And now Netflix maybe agreed to it, because who doesn't want to see a Scooby-Doo something, especially if it's live action? My only problem is that he has a history of making grim, unappealing adaptations, in my opinion, when it comes to like these iconic characters that were once happy-go-lucky and brighter, and now we have like a very brooding Riverdale that's filled with drama and depression. And then the same went for the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, which was more of a darker take. So is that the road that we're going with this, a darker take on Scooby-Doo? Not to say that it can't work, but so far your last two projects relating in this similar matter did not appeal to me at all.
There's that, but then there's also this aspect of all his shows, like once they deal with whatever's happening, it's like, but this person doesn't love me anymore. Like, let's talk about our relationship. It becomes one of those like teeny bopper shows. And that's fine, but Scooby-Doo, I just don't feel like is that kind of content. They already tried that with Mindy Collins' Velma, which I didn't watch, but I don't think did very well.
It somehow got a season 2, and it's still being reviewed very poorly.
Yeah, why? Like, who's watching that?
But I do agree with you. I think Scooby-Doo is notorious for being more catered to kids and families, and it's meant to be lighter.
Yeah, like Scoob, like when it came out a couple years ago. It was a great kids film.
That was a great movie. You also had, Notorious, the live action, the 2 movies that came before. They were meant
James
for family.
Gunn movies.
Yes, the James Gunn. He wrote those movies, and they were fun.
Yes.
They were fun, and to me, they remain as classics, in my opinion. I grew up with those movies, and so nothing's going to change me from saying that these are bad movies. So we'll see on this one. I like Greg Berlanti and what he's done for the Arrowverse and, bringing these characters to life, but his track record just shows that it's just going to be drama-filled, the adventures of drama featuring Scooby-Doo. And I don't want to see that show.
It's like, I don't want to see you being depressed because Shaggy doesn't love you anymore, or Velma's not talking to you, or Daphne's not talking to you. It's like, oh God, give it a rest. It's just gonna be this. Otherwise, it's just gonna be something to skip. And so obviously, it's gonna be this mixed, augmented reality. So like, Scooby-Doo, is he gonna be a real dog that talks? No, he's probably gonna be an animated dog in a live world.
Right. So. We'll see. They've had some success in the past with live action adaptations of it, and then there's also some other ones that have not been working out. So we'll see where this one lands. Coming soon. Wrapping up on a few more stories. The long in development live action Masters of the Universe movie is one step closer to becoming a reality, with Amazon MGM Studios and Mattel Films announcing that the film will have a worldwide theatrical release of June 5th, 2026. Travis Knight, who is responsible for Kubo and the Two Strings and Bumblebee, has signed on to direct the film. Chris Butler, the writer-director of Paranorman and Missing Link, will write the screenplay. I don't really have much to say about Masters of the Universe because I don't follow this property at all. But I do like Travis Knight. I really enjoy the Bumblebee movie that he did, and I thought Kubo and the Two Strings was a fantastic animated film. So I respect the filmmaker, and I'll give a look at this one if it looks interesting based on the trailer.
So, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. My only interest is the director. I like both those very same. I like those films. And David, friend of the show. He's talked about He-Man and Masters of the Universe for forever. He talks about the series that was revived on Netflix, which I still have yet to see. I'm sure this will be fine. I think this will be good. This has potential. This is a decent director. I expect this is probably going to be fine.
And also for a summer of 2026, we're about 2 years away from this release. It seems like they got to get the ball moving fairly quickly now because it says long in development. I do remember that this movie has been passed around quite some time, and this was supposed to be a Netflix movie, and then it got moved on to Amazon, and so now I feel like they set a hard release date on it. So now we have to do it until they delay it.
Again.
But good for Travis Knight for staying employed.
Agreed.
And hopefully he can bring something interesting to He-Man as he did with the Transformers. Because at the time before him, the Transformers weren't doing so great. Like a lot of people dismissed it. And then Bumblebee came out and they're like, well, wait a minute. This is actually pretty good. So maybe you can do the same with the He-Man.
True. Very true.
Moving on to a couple of quick stories. Vin Diesel set to return as Richard B. Riddick in the upcoming fourth installment of the Riddick franchise titled Riddick Fura. David Sleuth? Tuhothi? I don't think that's not right at all.
I like how you said it. You're like, David? Tuhothi? Will return? To write and direct?
We'll just call him David. David, the writer-director of the 3 previous Riddick films, will return to write and direct the fourth movie.
I think it's Tuohi.
Tuothi?
Tuhi.
Man. Words are fun here. If anyone finds any enjoyment of me trying to pronounce words and failing, I hope you enjoy that because it happens way too often here on the show.
It could literally probably be a drinking game for both of us.
for both.
Okay, so I looked it up. I looked it up the pronunciation. This is according to Google, guys. Break Tui, so down in the sounds. Too. Here, I'll let you read. Everybody, we can all read together. Break it down into sound. Tui. Say it out loud and exaggerate the sounds until you can constantly produce them. Tui. Tui.
Tui.
Tui. Tui. Tui. Okay.
Chant it. We got it. David Tui. Thank you. Thank you, David Tui, for directing movies I don't care about. Sorry, that's just me. I just never seen these. I'm not a big fan of the Riddick franchise, but Vin Diesel needs work.
Out of his movies, I liked Pitch Black. I like the Chronicles of Riddick. They're fine, like futuristic fantasy movies. They're fine. They're fun. So I'm here for it. I'll watch them.
Sure. I have zero attachment to that franchise. I think I've seen Riddick, or I honestly, I couldn't even tell you if I've seen all three because I don't remember.
All
it.
I remember is Pitch Black and Chronicles of Riddick. I don't remember the other one.
Yeah.
I didn't know that there was another one.
Yeah, it was Riddick. It was the next one.
That's right. That's right.
So-
that's right. That's right.
Yeah, I think that was like 20. It could be 10 years ago. I honestly don't know. But anyway, Vin Diesel continue working
For the family.
He's doing another one of them for the family. He's doing another one of them. The Blade Runner 2029 sequel series at Amazon Prime Video has cast Oscar-winning actress Michelle Yeoh in a leading role. Exact plot details are being kept under wraps, but sources say that Yeoh will play a character named Olwen, described as a replicant nearing the end of her life. Again, another franchise I'm not too invested into. Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049. They're dense films that I have a hard time connecting with, but good for Michelle Yeoh for grabbing yet another leading role. And I was going to talk about her this week, but I didn't finish the show, so I'll get to her and her series next week. But I started and almost finished The Brother's Son that's on Netflix, and she's great in it.
Is it worth my time?
Well, here's the thing, and I want to finish it off because I started that show knowing that it's already canceled.
Ooh, okay.
So Netflix canceled it after its first season. And so I was looking for another show to watch, and I was like, I know there's only 8 episodes. Netflix already canceled it. It came out earlier this year, but it looks cool. I want to give it a shot. And from what I read, it does kind of end. It could still set up for a season 2, but I read that there was an ending, so I gave it a shot. And so I'm literally 1 episode away from finding out how it ends because there's no more coming after that. But I'm also notorious of not starting a show if I knew it was canceled. But this time I want to give it a shot because it looked really interesting and I still wanted to, watch it. Okay. So around by next week or next 2 weeks, I'll finish it and then I'll talk more about it. But she's great in it. It's sad to see the show that go, but looks like she found work very quickly and now is starring in Blade Runner 2099. And then lastly, 20th Century Studios is working on a reboot of The Maze Runner, the film written by Jack Polligan, who wrote Alien Covenant, with Wes Ball, the original trilogy's director, producing. Sources say that the reboot will act more as a cinematic continuation of the original trilogy story rather than a retelling or direct sequel to it. Which, it's funny that Wes Ball is still involved with it because it sounds exactly like what they're doing with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, where it's not a reboot. But it's kind of a continuation of it, but a lot of time has passed in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, so it feels like it's a fresh start for the franchise, yet it takes place many, many years after the original trilogy. And I don't know what direction they were going with The Maze Runner, but Wes Ball is actually the director of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, so maybe he took what he learned from there and they came to him for a Maze Runner or whatever, and now they're continuing off of it. So the fact that they say it's a cinematic continuation, last time I checked, that's called a sequel.
Well, because it's not a direct sequel; it's a continuation of the universe.
Yes,
but that's, to me, that's the best way to do it, because then you still honor what's already been made, and you still leave it as canon, as part of the storyline that all those people spent time creating. It's like that's the issue, and I'm gonna get on my Harry Potter soapbox, but it's like that's 8 movies, and so now you're gonna tell me you're just gonna erase all that history of what those 8 movies created, because if you didn't even have those 8 movies, we wouldn't even be talking about recreating the TV series. So like I don't know. It's just weird. Like, let's just
Don't give me the same thing again.
Yes, like why are you giving? There's so much. Like, have we lost all creativity? At least these things are continuations. So it's like, here, you set up this massive universe. I'm gonna plant my flag here in your universe, and I'm gonna continue the story within this to kind of expand it a little bit more. To me, that's paying homage to the original and continuing on with, as opposed to let's just drum up old shit all over again. Like let's literally do the same thing all over again. So at least with these three projects, at least we're getting some sort of continuation, because these things will cause people to go, oh, let me see if I'm really interested in watching this. Well, let me watch all the other shit so I can have a better understanding. That's what you want. You want people, if you want people to watch your new shit, you need to make it so that it's a jumping on point to where either they can watch it and then go back and watch the original, or watch everything leading up to watching the new thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I feel like that in this world that in this world of massive amount of content and like continuations, reboots, sequels, all that stuff, I feel like you have room to do it twice. So, for example, the argument that you were saying about Harry Potter, you could technically make the same argument for The Last Airbender. The Last Airbender had a successful animated series, and now they're doing that series in live action form. In my head, you've reached your limit.
Yes.
You had the original source material, which was the animated series, and you decided to make it into an animated a live action TV series. You did your thing for Harry Potter, and as well as, you had your source, which was the book, and then you made the movies, and then that's your 2. 3, no, I don't want to see the same story again, just told in a TV series. That means you're telling me that you're making this book 8 hours long each season.
Yeah.
At the bare minimum. Well, maybe it could be 6 episodes, but you're saying that at least 8 episodes, or maybe even 10 of each season, that to explain everything that's going on in the book. No, I got that. You gave me that already, and it's so successful what Harry Potter did. So to your point, I think Maze Runner is maybe doing I feel like that franchise is not as lucrative as some of the other ones, so I find it interesting that they're starting to continue to go down this path. But I don't know, maybe they have some good ideas.
True. I guess time will only tell.
And that's with everything with the news. And that is all the news we have for you guys this week.
You're nailing these segues lately, sir.
Yeah, we're both doing a good job. I told you it was a special episode. If you want all the latest and breaking news, you can always follow us on our social media channels on Instagram at @boxoffice_bingers, as well as our Threads page, and our Facebook page at Box Office Bingers. We'll post all the latest and breaking news over there first, and then we'll come back in the show and we'll talk about it. So with that, we're going to be diving into a fun segment we like to call What You Watchin'. So Ernesto, we'll start with you, the birthday boy. What have you been watching?
Matthew, I have 2 things for you, and you need to stop what you're doing, and you're going to need to watch X-Men 97. Because, damn, that is some good-ass television. Like, it just is. It just is. Regardless, it is way more than a kid's TV show. Like, than a kid's cartoon. The storylines that they've crafted. Like, I didn't realize that there's one more. So I actually thought that all the episodes were out, but the season finale is actually going to be on May 15th. So we're recording this on the 13th. Yeah. On 2 days, on Wednesday, the 15th, the finale will be watched. So I got caught up. So I've watched everything up to the penultimate episode. And damn, the penultimate ending they give you at the end of the episode, I was like, really? Is that it? They make it so interesting and intriguing, and like the dialogue that they've written for between these characters is just not what you expect from a kid's TV show. It's mind-boggling, like how well it is done, and like it's like these human stories, and it, with this overlayer of mutants and superheroes, and they've hit it. They've found something with X-Men 97. They have found a niche within this MCU superhero content. Like, this is what people are striving for. This is just really great TV. It's well made. The stories are intriguing. This makes you want to read watching the show makes you want to read the comic books because it's serialized. So it is weekly. So you're kind of more engaged into the content, and this serves perfect as a week to week watch. I'm really excited for the finale.
So do I have a point of entry issue? Can I just start?
Yes,
like the first episode.
I barely remember anything about the original X-Men series, and there were a couple of things that I was like, I don't really remember that, but I feel like they encapsulated in the recap. And you're a person, I'm sure you'll find a good enough YouTube recap that'll recap, maybe even give you an even more detailed one if you wanted to know. Especially now that everything's out, they can kind of give you like, hey, this is everything you need to know for the upcoming season, and then you can go back and watch regular X-Men if you wanted. But you don't need to watch the original X-Men series to enjoy this.
Okay. I think that was my biggest hurdle was like, I feel like I need to at least brush up on things like the show, because I didn't watch the show growing up, so I'll be going in very cold, obviously with the exception of I know who these characters are, but in the context of this show I didn't. And I know there's a YouTuber that I follow who does a lot of recaps, and he did like an hour-long video on the entire X-Men 97 series leading up to the new show, so I might give that a watch. It's only an hour, so I've watched longer things that were stupid. So, Madam Web and
accurate. The Irishman.
Irishman. I could watch 3 recaps for the Irishman, or longer, maybe 3.5. I don't remember how long. That's a 4 movie. Was it 3? No, it had to be longer than 3 hours, right?
It was 3.5, almost 4.
Yeah, almost 4. And the sense of this show, we called it the Irishman if it's too long. But yeah, I see that the episodes are only 30 minutes long, so it's not like it's a huge investment into this if I decided to go down. It's something that I wanted to watch because of all the rave reviews that it's been getting. I think I've just been waiting for it to be over, and so I think we're close to
Your
it.
time
I
is
think
now.
You said the finale.
Your time is now. The time is now. You're not going to be caught up. Quit being bougie. Well, you don't have many responsibilities, so I think you will have time. You could be caught up by Wednesday. We need to talk about this next week, Matthew. We need to talk about this. I need you to explore the world of X-Men 97 for me.
He said stop being bougie.
Stop being bougie. Just watch it. It is worth your time.
I have to wait till all the episodes. Stop it.
Shh.
Week to
You
week,
watch
like
shit. You watch shit week to week all the time. I never watch week to week, and this has got me watching week to week. That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying is that it's worth your time. That's all.
Okay.
That's all. All right.
Well, also, before we leave, I think, and I said this before, Marvel Studios said this is going to be its own separate thing, and I said, I'm going to say before I say it again, this is bullshit. This is Marvel testing the waters, and the fact that they are able to show an animated form from a beloved and animated series that they can do X-Men right, and is being beloved by so many people. This is what the entry that people needed for very closely, we're about to get Deadpool and Wolverine. And so I'm sure maybe it will be maybe not direct ties into X-Men 97, but we are now exploring what Marvel Studios can do with the X-Men brand. And if they've already having some massive success with X-Men 97, and if Deadpool and Wolverine shows to be the massive success that we hope it's going to be, then moving forward, maybe after Avengers Secret Wars or leading up to it or whatever, we are eventually going to be getting the X-Men movie. And it feels like that it's going to be in good hands with Marvel.
And we're at a good point within the MCU because they can use the back door of Secret Wars to really, and everything that's happening in the multiverse, we're at that incursion point where anything that they say, hey, we want you guys to leave your universe and just hop on over. But at the same point, I don't want to lose the serialized version of this because it works so well, and then remove that to have us wait for a movie. You know what I mean? Right. And the movie for the MCU, I feel like the universes are going to be different. I feel like there's already so much invested in the X-Men 97. I hear you, and I can see the appeal and the want to do that. I just think that if they do that, they will ruin a good thing.
Okay. All right. I respect that.
All right. The only other thing that I watched was thankfully today, because I got to leave early work today, I started watching Baby
Oh.
Reindeer, and this shit is crazy. It's a true story. This man right here, Richard Gadd, he gets hooked by this woman, and they get into this weird relationship where she's stalking him, but then like she kind of weasels her way into his life for them to become a thing. Only reason I saw like a bunch of clips online talking about like Baby Reindeer this, Baby Reindeer that, and then eventually I saw that there's a Pierce Morgan interview with the real woman from Baby Reindeer. So like I want to watch the show, and then I want to watch this interview about this real life story about how this woman like stalked this man into her life. So and then this is his story. Like,
How many episodes are you in?
3 episodes in. Each episode's only like 25 to 30 minutes long.
Oh well, that's nothing.
Yeah, so by next week I'll have this finished. But it is captivating. Like by episode 1, like right from the very beginning, you're hooked. You're just totally encapsulated into this woman and like just who she is as an individual. Like it's really good, really good.
Yeah, it's also touted as a mini series,
Yes.
which is perfect.
Yeah.
So you're telling me this is a mini series at 30 minutes long? There's only 7 episodes.
It's a movie. It's
Yes.
basically
It's
it's
a movie.
basically a movie just chopped up in a more digestible fashion.
Yes. This show, I'm surprised you started watching it because for me it came out of nowhere.
Same.
It's like all of a sudden I started seeing so many articles about Baby Reindeer, and I was like, well, what is this? And I was like, oh, it came out on Netflix. And I was like, did I even put this in Whatcha Watchin? I don't remember this at all. And I did, and I was like, wow.
And I did.
And I was like, I don't recall anything about this, and all of a sudden this is what anyone is talking about right now, among other shows. But like this is the one that all of a sudden is getting very popular very quickly, and it kind of came out of nowhere. And honestly, that's some of the good. That's like the sleeper hits.
Yes.
Like that's what like discovering something online or not online, but through these streaming services that get zero attention. Otherwise, there's no build up on it. You press play, and all of a sudden you're like, what is this?
What is this? Like, how did I miss out on this? But it's
Right.
very good. It's very captivating. Like, I will 100% be finishing this, but I'll have a full breakdown next week.
Okay. All right. I look forward to hearing it. If I can convince Megan to start this within the week, then maybe we might start this next, because we just finished one of the shows that we were watching, and so now we're in a little bit of a show hole.
The worst place to be.
The worst place to be, but also the best place to be, because you look at all these different possibilities you have.
That's fair.
But also it sucks because then like you just finished the thing that you're watching. So now I was like, what we're gonna do? We're gonna pick something else, I guess.
But that's all.
It was like
That's all I got this week.
Okay. I've had a couple of things that I've been watching throughout the couple of weeks since the last time we did Whatcha Watchin. I think that was with Esteban. So yeah, we skipped last week. So here we are. We saw Apples Never Fall. I saw Apples Never Fall. It's a limited series on Peacock. I think it runs about 7 episodes, roughly about an hour or so. It's basically a mystery. It says from the author of Big Little Lies, and like, oh yeah, no, this definitely feels that way. It actually reads like a mystery novel. Like it plays as a mystery novel. Each episode is following one of the family members, and then at the very end you find out the mystery that's going on.
Oh, okay.
So to me, it was very simple. It was like a very easy watch for me. And I just came from, so let me go back to my list here. I wanted to watch something, even though a mystery isn't really like light material, but I just came off from binging Halo, Invincible, Shogun, 3 Body Problem. There were 4 shows that were deep sci-fi and nerddom.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need like a palate cleanser of some sort, and my brain went to mystery. So it's not to say like it's the lightest thing in the world, but it definitely played like if I picked up a book that was this, then it played like each couple of chapters you're following a different person, and then the story and the mystery unfolds from there. It was solid. It was it was actually a lot of negative reviews that I read about it, but I do like a lot of these actors.
Yeah,
and so I gave it a
you have
Allison Brie,
the other one from that movie we watched earlier this year.
Yes. Wow, what's her name?
She's literally right in the middle of the cover here.
Yep. No, she is definitely the star. And Annette Bening.
That's right.
And she was nominated for an Oscar.
Well deserved.
And Sam Neill, famously from Jurassic Park. So yeah, I wanted to give it a shot, and I'm glad I did. For those who are just looking for like an easy to digest mystery, Apple Never Falls. It's not as bad as people say online. Just don't expect much from it. Like the only thing I wanted was a mystery, and I got it. So did I figure it out fairly quickly? That's not the question you asked. So at this point, I just want to prove myself right.
Okay.
And I did. Without spoiling anything. Anyway, moving on from that, we tackled a couple of movies. I know 2 weeks ago, Estevan said that he watched Anyone But You, that just recently hit Netflix. Also a Sony movie, mind you, that went to Netflix after its first run. And it's solid. It's your rom-com. It's exactly what he said it was. You have two up-and-coming stars doing a comedy together, and what I really find interesting is that we don't see this in the theater anymore. This type of comedy, romantic comedy, where you know how the movie's gonna end as soon as you start it. It alludes it to the cover. It's like, oh, I don't like you, but then I do. I secretly do. I kind of really like you, but no, we can't do this anymore. And then guess what?
I actually love you.
I love you. And then it's a happy ending.
Exactly what I was looking for. You're exactly what I didn't know I needed.
And you know what type of movie you're getting yourself into. And those type of movies don't go to theaters anymore. No. And the fact that this movie was able to crack $100 million in the box office is insane to me.
Well, it's a call to know that there is still a market out there for that people still like to go on date nights to a rom-com. This is a perfect movie theater rom-com, like date night movie.
And also, and for that, and also it checks literally all the boxes. It's like you knew these stars from other things, and they're both very attractive. You have Glenn Powell for the ladies, you have Sydney Sweeney for the men, so it works right in the line of like, oh, I'll watch them. I like these people for what they are, and I've seen one from Euphoria and the other one that she's not going to talk about, and then you also had Glenn Powell from Top Gun Maverick. So yeah, why not? And looking at the box office numbers, I was completely wrong. It made way more than $100 million. You're looking at the box office numbers right now, $88.3 million domestically, $131 million internationally, with a grand total of $219 million. Do you know what it opened with? Take a lucky guess what it opened with.
$50 million.
$6 million.
Wow.
It opened to $6 million.
Oh. Sorry, now, when you said it, I was expecting. I was like, oh, it must be a big number. But I guess in relation to the film, it is a big number. Like for it to do so well.
Absolutely, and I want to also quickly look up the budget because I'm sure it made money. And also, this kind of cements that people do want to see, like especially for the actors. It's like, oh, okay, maybe the people do want to go out and see these movies with these actors, and so that's a huge payday for them. The budget was $25 million.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, needless to say, we typically use a 2.5 multiplier to make sure that it's a profit. That's about 75 million, or no, actually a little bit more than that. Yeah, 75 million to make a profit. Yeah, and it succeeded that.
Yeah, most definitely.
Tripled that number. So yeah, needless to say, it's a huge success, and also just shows that yes, people still want to go to the theater and have a date night and see a rom-com. Mm-hmm. That's still a need, and I feel like this is what the movie was fine for what it was, but I think if anything, it shows that bring these movies back into the theater because it still works and people still want to see it as long as it's done in a way that it's not cheesy.
True, very true.
So, and like I watched this with Megan and she enjoyed it. She loved it. And so That's what you
Check
need. That's all you need.
check the box.
Exactly. The next movie that I saw was The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, starring Henry Cavill. This movie was nonsensical.
Nonsensical.
There was a story there for sure, and the only reason why I watched this movie because I was not blown away by the trailer whatsoever, but I watched it because it was Guy Ritchie, and the last 3 Guy Ritchie movies has been bangers in my opinion. He did Wrath of Man, he did The Covenant, and then he also did one more that I'm drawing a blank right now, but it was like another and the Operation Dave Fortune or something. But those 3 movies are like, these are great. Like, he's on a resurgence right now, and so I figured like maybe the trailer doesn't look great, but I'm gonna give this man a shot because those last 3 movies I saw at home, and I wish I saw them in the theater. And then I saw this one. I was like, well, we can't all be winners. Can't all be winners. You know, I gave him a shot. I gave him a shot in the theater. Yeah, it's kind of wacky in a way, and the trailer does allude to it's going to be like nonstop action. And there was action in the beginning, and there was action at the end, and there was like a little bit of action in the middle. But other than that, like a lot of the time they were just on a boat, and like a lot of like stuff was being crafted, and like the plan was being formed, and it was a lot of that. And so I was like, that's not exactly what I kind of wanted, because those moments weren't as like entertaining. It just, I nodded off a little bit in some scenes because like them planning something was not great. And also this movie is getting a little bit of flack because like it's based on a true story, yet none of what happened in this movie was actually true. The end result of what this movie was, like there was a group of people during the World War II who was able to infiltrate a Nazi base or something along those lines to get information to get an advantage in the war. That is what happened. That is true. Everything else about this movie, the guns ablazing, the action-packedness, all of that was fake. So,
well, that's upsetting.
So a lot of people ran a little bit of issues with how that ran, but like also, I mean, look at the poster. I mean, you can take it for what it is. It's a movie. It's like it's meant to be action. You know, it's inspired by, and even at the end of the movie, we see the real life heroes that they were portraying, and so it felt like a glorified, action-packed. Like this is how Guy Ritchie saw these people rather than the actual events of what it was. Like he saw them as action stars and heroes of like how they will be portrayed in movies rather than how it was actually done in real life. So I didn't really run into that problem, but I know a few people did. But the movie was fine. Okay. It was also fine for what it was. Moving on to another movie that I saw, Unfrosted, which is on Netflix. I thought in some cases this movie was based on a true story of how the Pop-Tart was formed. And it is not. It is not at all. This is 100% a spoof. The whole story is made up of how the Pop-Tart was formed.
Oh, okay.
So don't go into it thinking that this is a ridiculous like version of how the Pop-Tart was
like
born. No. Yeah, exactly. It actually that's actually a great comparison. It felt, I didn't think of it till you just said it. It's basically a Weird Al movie.
That sounds good.
But it's directed by Jerry Seinfeld. It's starring Jerry Seinfeld. I believe this is his directorial debut. I don't think he's directed any movie before.
Did he not direct the B movie?
I don't think he did.
Because I know that's like his movie.
It is his movie.
Oh no, it wasn't him. It was Simon J. Smith and Steven Hickner. He just was, the lead star.
Yeah. Director. Yeah, it just says Unfrosted as director. So yeah, this was his directorial debut. It was a solid comedy. There was a lot of moments that made me laugh. It's a quick 90 minutes, and it's a glorified comedian cameo. Every 3 seconds, you're seeing another comedian pop on screen. It almost felt like that. This was like Jerry Seinfeld's all his connections that he was able to make, and was able to get all these comedic stars together to make a Goofy movie. Not to be mistaken with the Goofy movie, but a Goofy movie. But I think that's the title of it. It's a Goofy movie. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about. it was very silly for what it was. Like Hugh Grant was playing the tiger from like the Kellogg's cereal, Frosted Flakes tiger, Tony the Tiger.
Nice.
And it's early incarnations, but he's like a very serious actor, and so like you have this guy saying they're great, and then all of a sudden he pops off the head, and he's like, so that the line that I just said, and then it goes on, and then he does Shakespeare like on the weekends or something, and so
That's
like,
pretty funny.
There's a lot of funny moments in there, and you also have Jim Gaffigan, Hugh Grant, like I said, Amy Schumer, Melissa McCarthy. Like, it's a solid comedy that you kind of really, it only works if you lean into what this is, the ridiculousness of this is. And like, there's like, because they're developing a new breakfast item that wasn't cereal, they were having a feud with the milkman because the milkman had to like, they have this secret organization of like this milkman mafia, and they have to remind the cereal companies that they're only good with the milk. And so if you try to create a product that's not featuring milk, then what are you? You're just these dry cereal company. And so it's kind of really funny because you have like Jerry Seinfeld, who's like the CEO of Kellogg's, and you have Amy Schumer, who's the CEO of Post, and they're like in this feud together to make the next like breakfast item that everyone is going to enjoy. So there's a lot of humor in there, and if you lean into it, it is quite funny, but it might not be everyone's cup of tea.
Seems like it. It seems like it's very like slapsticky.
Yes, it is very much so. Like, it definitely, each scene feels like a bit. That's also what it feels like. But yeah, not too bad for Jerry Seinfeld. He's still kind of got something there, and he had something kind of somewhat special, but also really ridiculous. But yeah, and the last thing that I had watched, Megan and I just binged this, The Circle season 5. We didn't realize that we were behind, so season 6 just dropped, and we're like, oh, we should watch the new season of The Circle. And there was like, oh, we didn't watch the last season, and that came out of December of 2022, and we're like, oh wow, yeah, we definitely fell behind on this show. So we just finished watching season 5, and I said this once, I'll say it again. This show is so much fun to watch. It's like it's 13 episodes and they're all like an hour long, but it goes by so fast because you just get invested into the game and the strategies and like who's going to do what. And like, I feel like we spent longer with this show than the runtime because we always pause it and think about what you would do in these situations, given with the point of the game. Eventually it starts, you start playing along with it, which is the fun of it. And so now we just finished season 5, and so season 6 just wrapped up. And so eventually we might have a buffer in between the two, but we're not too far behind of watching season 6. So it's always a great time to watch a show, especially for those like one that's very interactive that you can, have fun with. And I think in the new season, they have an AI as one of the contestants.
Oh, that's weird.
So it's weird, and I'm really interested in that. Like, how does that work? But yeah, that's pretty much all I've been watching there. So with that, we're going to be diving into our spoiler review of The Fall Guy, the movie to kind of kick off the summer movie blockbuster season. And well, Ernesto, your thoughts on the movie?
I thought the movie was fine. It was fun. It was a fun movie. It was packed, had some great action sequences, just like it was introduced, and we kind of mentioned before, it is a love letter to the stunt industry, and I felt like each different stunt was like they were able to showcase something different. It's like between the car chase and the fight in the bar, or even the final ending sequence where, you had all these different stunts, the car jump, and then the people falling. The one, my favorite stunt would have to be, I think, when he fell out of the plane. I think there was just something like, I don't know. I felt very in the moment. So like I could see the shot that they show you, and it's like, oh my God, he actually fell out of a plane. Excuse me, a helicopter.
Helicopter.
Yeah. I like that there was even a joke about it not being even up at the Oscars. We talked about it at the Oscars. Like, there's this very clear campaign to have stunt work being pushed to the Oscars, and I'm here for it. However you want to promote it, you want to pump it into movies like this, That's fine. Give us a little bit of ad work beforehand, like they did it like this past year's Oscars with Emily Blunt and Ryan Gosling, kind of introducing it and also promoting their movie. I thought the unicorn scene and all that shit that setup was fun. I thought that was hilarious. I thought that was so, I don't know, it was just so wacky, like in just the way and how it was, the element, how it was used in different scenes. I just thought it was well placed, well used. It wasn't overdone. It wasn't like overly distracting. It kind of enhanced the scene a little bit, which is what you want for something like that. Like distracting enough to be noticeable, but not distracting enough to where it kind of takes away the magic of everything else happening. I like that. Like every kind of scene setup, it was always started with him like trying to get a cup of coffee. Like every time he gets a cup of coffee, like something happens. Like the Comic-Con Hall H stuff, I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And I kind of doing some research, learned that Metal Storm is actually a real movie. And then the tagline that they used, the high noon at the end of the universe, that's a tagline. That's an actual tagline from the real Metal Storm movie. I know that was kind of a lot, but I feel like overall the movie was fun. It was fun. It was fine. A very surface level plot, but like the true testament was this film kind of showcasing all the different stunts and really like giving us a movie that showcases how important stunt work is and just like what it actually means to be a stunt performer in the industry.
Yeah, I think you used the right word there, which was this movie was fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
This was a fun movie. Like there wasn't much to it. I mean, when you start really thinking about the plot, I'd say it didn't make any sense, but it was kind of it was kind of ridiculous in a way. Like, because I feel like that we were kind of strung along to the idea of like, where's our main lead? And there was a point in the movie where I was like, why are we even following this story of like trying to find our missing actor when the best part of it is the interactions they have between Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. Their chemistry in this movie was it brought all the energy to it. It was so good.
Yeah.
And it was especially showcased when she was directing like him like setting him off on fire and
Great scene.
them going.
That's a fantastic scene.
Great scene. It's arguably one of the best scenes in the movie of them like going back and forth of like you did me wrong, you kind of ghosted me, we had something and then you kind of just fell off of the earth and never spoke to me and rejected every chance I tried to connect with you, and then they just keep can we run that back again? And it was like the everything that they were saying, but also what they weren't saying.
Yes.
As like they were having an argument and everyone knew they were having an argument even within the scene itself, but just as form of punishment is like, yeah, let's run that back again and we need to put you on fire because I know you'll be fine, but like this is a form of punishment as well as kind of both getting what they need to get, well, not really both, mainly her kind of getting like, okay, I'm good now, like I got, like, you suffered enough through this process that I'm doing right now with the power that I have as a director.
I think you're so right. I think that scene is arguably one of the best just because of what it sets up. We're getting this back and forth with this overtone of like everybody watching and everybody knowing the conversation, but like it's like, well, but then they're talking about the movie, but then obviously the movie is a play on her life, and which at first people were like not so sure, and then very quickly they're like, oh yeah, that's what's happening. And then you get like the little alien with the voice changer who's kind of like chiming in, like, oh, but I think you're right. I think besides the action sequences, I think the chemistry between Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt is like you can't ignore that. Like they pair very well together on screen, regardless
they
of
really
the plot.
do. Yeah, exactly. And I like you felt that when they were like kind of flirting with each other in the beginning, and then with the whole fire scene, and then like them going back and forth of like, so how do you feel about split screens? as we are actively watching a split screen happen and then going back and forth about like, do you think it works with the scene and blah, blah, blah. And like, I love the subtle, in a way, I love meta. There's no denying. If you've been listening to this podcast for as long as we've been recording it, you know that I like meta. And there was a lot of that in this movie because it was a movie within a movie about making a movie, focusing on the stunts, and also kind of highlighting a lot of like the what's the word? Wow.
I don't know, man.
Misconceptions of stunt work. Yeah, misconceptions of like how stunt people feel in the Hollywood. And so they're always sidelined to doing this, an over exaggerated version for sure. But I love that they're missing their lead actor, who doesn't, according to in this movie, doesn't do anything. You have the stunt guy doing all the work and basically saying that we don't even need you to film these scenes. You're just here for a face. And I'm sure that was rooted off of many, many, many movies in Hollywood over the past couple of years.
I also think that there's this interesting aspect that it hit on, which kind of is a very telling to what you're saying, like the use of the fact that they don't need him, but then the fact that they're integrating current technology where they just scanned your face, so they don't need the actor, but they don't need the actor, but they always need the stuntman. Like regard because and then you see that even evident later on when Aaron Taylor Johnson's character, when he comes back and they're like, oh, well, we had set to do all these stunts. He's like, oh, we're not going to do any of that shit because he's not going to be able to do any of those stunts for you. So it's like, you could see like, well, if without the stuntman, then you see how the quality of a film can be quickly diminished into just a CGI fest. Because if somebody's unwilling to actually do the thing, then yeah, CGI and recreation is great, but it doesn't beat the element of a true stunt performer doing the thing, jumping across a canyon, fucking falling out of a helicopter, jumping cars, like being lit on fire, being thrown into a wall. I mean, this is dangerous shit.
Yeah, and it was also kind of comedically shown through Hannah Waddingham as the producer, and when they were going through the scene and Aaron Taylor Johnson kind of gave his resounding speech and was like, oh, okay, we're good. And then Emily Blunt, trying to scheme a plan to confess the murder from him, was like, oh no, we need to do one more thing. It's like, oh no, we'll do this in post. We already talked about this. We'll do it. CGI will cover all this. It's like, no, we got to do it this way. And it's only a couple lines through this. And so like, I'm sure a lot of that conversation between your producer and your director, again, this was showcased in a comedic way, but when you really look at it, I'm sure a lot of this was rooted from real life stuff that happened in the industry of like doing the actual stunts rather than relying on CGI. And you can see throughout the finale how stunts can really bolster an action sequence, and especially a finale like that, as opposed to resorting to CGI to cover those elements. And so I feel like there was a lot of that in this movie. And I also think that I love after watching the movie, that the fall guy has a double meaning to it, because you think of it as the fall guy, Ryan Gosling, being the fall guy, he's the stunts. He's the guy that's falling. But in the essence of the story, he was the fall guy for Aaron Taylor Johnson's character, who he was trying to pin the murders on and have Aaron Taylor Johnson be scot-free in this particular scenario. So yeah, I like the double meaning on the title here. And as far as a director for David Leitch, I think this was probably his best movie, because I feel like that he was able to put a lot of passion behind it, given his history with stunts and his own career as being a stunt actor and then a stunt coordinator. And he was also a contributor to he had a hand in making John Wick as well. Like, I think he was like an uncredited producer on it, or helped with the stunts on John Wick, at least the first movie. And then he I think he was actually a producer, an executive producer on all 4 John Wick films. And also for that director of John Wick to also be a former stunt actor to then turn director, we're seeing this more and more. And if given the opportunity, and I'm also pretty sure that the Extraction series, the film series with Chris Hemsworth, was also a stunt actor coordinator turned director as well. You see the level of action that they've been able to put together, and how much respect over the last few years that we've been able to see of how coordinated these action scenes can go when it's under the hands of a director who's been spent their career to do this. We've seen some really entertaining work throughout here, and I feel like The Fall Guy has been the movie that has been able to kind of showcase that in a comedic way. And I wouldn't say to blockbuster status, because John Wick definitely was able to achieve that, of like big budget, like high level action. But I think this movie was able to give it to us in a digestible comedic like an action comedy, like to this scale. And I feel like these movies we don't see much anymore either, like a really healthy blend of action and comedy.
Yeah, my thing is, as great as it is, it probably could have been at least 15-20 minutes shorter.
That's fair.
You could have compiled some of that storyline, because I mean, there's some stuff that was like kind of like nonsensical, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where like, yeah, it adds to the plot, but like if you had made this movie made it just a little bit tighter, maybe it would have resonated a little bit more, because it does seem like, well, it's not doing like, it's not blowing it out, but it's not blowing out the box office, but it's also not like severely and underperforming. It's kind of meddling somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, and I do feel like that, to your point, some of the weaker moments is when we weren't on set.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, anything that took away from either making the movie itself, or like when we kind of diverted into we're looking for our movie star, is when the movie took a little bit of a dip for me.
Yeah, like right before he gets the phone.
Right, and once those two are on screen, we're back. We're captivated. We're kind of drawn to their energy that they're putting out in this movie. But then when it's Ryan Gosling on his own, being basically like this bumbling stuntman who doesn't really know what's going on and just trying to get answers so he can get the love of his life back, like that wasn't really landing as much. Then we had Stephanie Hsu in there, who had a brief moment in the movie as like the agent for Aaron Taylor Johnson, and they had the whole car chase truck scene, which was kind of comedically paired with the karaoke song that they played. So like you have that as well that's in there, and so like, yeah, those moments didn't really make any sense in a way, and they kind of just deflected from more of the more interesting things about the movie, where was making the movie itself. And I did like that toward the end, when we get the big action scene, it was almost kind of peeling back the curtain a little bit on like, we're getting an action scene on a movie set, but the stunt people are also helping out to make sure that everyone's safe and also contributing to the fight. But also, I'm sure that those stunt people were also doing the same stunts for the actual movie itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, these are things that they would have done on a real movie set for the most part, and then we're seeing like an over-exaggerated version of it, and again, going back to that meta-ness of it all. What do you think about Winston Duke in this movie?
I thought he was a great comedic relief. I loved how his one-liners whenever they were in a fight scene, like there was like that's the last of the Mohicans, or it's like Jason Bourne. It was like there's like too many to name. I thought it was a nice little small callback to different stunt movies that have great lines, and able to connect it to like this movie's love letter to stunt work.
Yeah, and I also loved that they keep bringing up the unicorn was when he drank, and like that kept coming up. That was really good to comedic effect. And also when he was trying to get to the room key as well, where like the room key didn't work, so he had to go back down, and it was, I'm sorry, it didn't work. And like a lot of the comedy really worked for it. And I think Winston Duke had a lot of great one-liners in there, because every time he would do an action move, he would list a movie that he felt like he was replicating that stunt from, which is kind of hilarious when you think about it. And then toward the end, did you end up seeing the end credit scene at all, or did you end up leaving before that?
No, was there more than one?
No, there was just
no.
the one.
I saw it.
Okay. But yeah, I thought it was funny that they ended up replacing Aaron Taylor Johnson's character with literally Jason Momoa.
And did you see earlier in the film where he has a Post-it note on his fridge, and it's like the different spellings of Jason Momoa? That's why I thought it was funny. It's like he almost like called it into existence.
Yes. And it was funny that we saw how I guess they got arrested, or no, he blew up.
Yeah, he blew up.
Yeah, Aaron Taylor Johnson blew up, which was again ridiculous. Of just kind of I think he just represented A-list ego energy.
Yes.
Like A-list movie stars, the big the ones that have huge egos, or the big divas on set that I am the movie star, I am entitled to all of this, and so much so that they took it to the extreme of I'm entitled that I should not be I should not be blamed for this murder. It was his fault, and I'm going to have my stunt guy take the fall for me. And so in that aspect, it was a clever way of kind of doing that story. Just yet I feel like all the pieces didn't necessarily work out to that benefit. But I think with how much fun I was having watching the movie, I kind of just gave a pass on how the story didn't really captivate me as much as maybe it should have.
Yeah, I wanted more.
Because but all the other stuff was fun when it was there. So I feel like I can easily rewatch this movie and still have a good time with it. I don't think this distracts me from watching it again if I just want to sit down and enjoy. Basically this is to me, this is the perfect movie to start the summer blockbuster season. It's a movie you can sit down in the theater, grab a bucket of popcorn, and just go along for the ride and not really have to think about it. And that's just me. Do you feel the same way, or do you want some more?
I really wanted more, and I wanted it to be if you're gonna be slapsticky, then you don't need to be 2 hours. If you're gonna be slappy funny, then you should keep it to a solid 90. A solid 90
okay.
for a film like this. But it was fine. I really enjoyed. I enjoyed the stunts. I enjoyed it for what it was. I don't know if I would go back and rewatch this. I don't. I could take it.
I'm not sure about all that.
I wouldn't run immediately back to it. Maybe if my kids wanted to watch it, I'd watch it. But it's not something that I would actively seek out to watch again.
Okay. I want to quickly talk about the box office because I think that is a huge factor into the conversation. The Fall Guy, let me rephrase. Before, in the past, I should say, Marvel has typically been the movie studio to kick off the summer movie season. They always kind of have that first release in May. And this year, we didn't get that. This year, that responsibility fell on The Fall Guy. And for some reason, it didn't connect with a lot of people. The budget for this movie was $140 million. It opened to $27.7 million, which was about 10-ish million dollars shy of what it was projected to make. It was around 35 to $40 million it was projected to make. And then it came significantly under that. At the time of this recording, domestically, this movie has made $49.6 million. Internationally, it had $54 million, with a grand total of $103.7 million. So internationally, it's definitely picking up, for sure, picking up the legs here for it. But right now, it's at $103 million. Going in, just coming off its second weekend at a budget of 140, it doesn't seem like this movie is going to make a big profit, if any at all. Where do you feel like the disconnect was? Because I feel like, in my opinion, this movie was marketed very well. I saw this movie all over the place. Even the red carpet, they had stunts going left and right on this. The marketing, I feel like, was done very well to it. You're also coming off of 2 powerhouse actors that did the Barbenheimer. You had Ryan Gosling coming off of Barbie, you had Emily Blunt coming off of Oppenheimer. So these names are definitely recognizable coming back for an action comedy. And it didn't seem like people are rushing to the theater to go watch it, even though it feels like the perfect movie. On paper, it feels like the perfect movie to go watch in the theater. So where do you feel like that disconnect was?
Maybe it was the over promotion, because we were just talking about this film, the promotion for this was everywhere. There was millions of trailers. I mean, they basically got promotional spot at the Oscars. Like they had like a
Yes.
whole 2 or 3 minutes with Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. Like, hey, this is our movie. We're here to talk about stunts. Go watch our movie, The Fall Guy, coming out in May. And even with all that, it's still underperformed. Maybe because it just, maybe that's because, people looked at it for what it was, like a love letter to stunt work, and maybe that just wasn't enough to reel them in. It was enough for me. Like I enjoyed it enough. I thought it was great. I thought the stunt work was fantastic, but it's just like the movie's fine. Like the as far as the story, like it's fine. Like a very run of the mill action comedy with a little bit of romance thrown in.
Yeah, and I don't know. I feel like that, especially with these A-list stars, that would have been enough to bring people in. I want to quickly look at the Fall Guy. I want to quickly look at the Rotten Tomato score, see what the critics had to say about it, and yeah, 82%. It's not like it was like given horrible reviews for people to be straying away from it either. 82% with the critics, 87% with the audience. So they even favored this higher so that's pretty good in Rotten Tomato standards if you're using that as a metric. Then that should be able to bring more people into the theater because like, oh, this looks like a good movie, so I'm going to watch it. But yeah, I'm a little bit kind of baffled by this one, to be honest with you. This honestly has all the recipe of being like that movie that everyone wants to see, with all the given factors that we already talked about, but yet it's underperforming. And so that's interesting to see. It's not a good start to the summer movie season. And a lot of people that are speculating are like, I don't know, because if this movie can't do it, and then we also have some other ones like Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, we had Mad Max coming soon. Later down the line, there's Deadpool, and like there's not a lot of like huge blockbusters that are coming into this summer, probably because of the writer's strike. They're still holding that effect on it. A lot of movies were not able to hit their deadlines. A lot of movies got pushed back. And so this summer is not as stacked as we used to. It's also not filled with like super big IP movies. We do have Inside Out 2, which is probably going to be looked at highly going into the summer. But yeah, not the biggest start for the summer blockbuster season. And then as we know, as we're recording now, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes had a pretty solid start in its own right that we'll talk about next week. But yeah, I mean, overall, your final thoughts, Ernesto?
It was fine. Action sequences were great. I kind of wanted a little bit more from the story. What really kept me interested is the action and the chemistry between Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. So with that, I'm gonna give it 3 stars.
A 3 stars. Okay. I think I'll favor this movie a little bit more. I think I'm more leaning to like a 3.5 on it. But I also like, I also agree with everything you said. Like the story isn't the strongest. And if we look back at, some of the stuff that the writer has done, it's Iron Man 3, Hotel Artemis, and Hobbs and Shaw. Not known for its superb writing, and some people say that they did not like the story for Iron Man 3, and I was also slightly disappointed with Hotel Artemis. I love the action in the movie, but the story didn't meet up to my expectations. And then Hobbs and Shaw, it's all about the action and the chemistry between Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Jason Statham in that movie. So like, not known for their big twists and turns in it, but I think this is a movie that you kind of have to lean into. This is supposed to be meant to be enjoyed for purely its action stunts, and maybe not to think too much about into the story, but not to say that we can't ignore its flaws either. But I do respect this movie a lot.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, I respect it a lot for what it was doing, and I do think that this is David Leitch best movie to date, given all the ones that he's directed. And like I did not like Atomic Blonde, and Deadpool 2 was not as good as the first Deadpool. And then Hobbs and Shaw I really enjoyed, and I had like mixed reviews about Bullet Train. I think you liked it more than I did.
I liked it.
I think it was kind of crazy toward the end, and I didn't really lean into it much. But I feel like this one has a lot of passion to it, a lot of heart into it. And there was one more thing I want to mention, a couple of fun facts. You mentioned one about Metal Storm actually being a real movie. But 2 things. One, I don't remember if you remember from the movie where they said that they did they broke the record for most car rolls.
Yes.
In a movie. That was true, actually.
Oh.
They actually with 8.5 car rolls, this movie actually broke the Guinness World Records for most car rolls in a movie.
Oh wow.
So they reference their own achievement in the movie, which is kind of crazy. And then right before the cinematic 250-foot jump that was at the very end of the movie that they were teasing, if you looked at the speedometer on the car, it can be read going 88 miles per hour.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And so technically they went to the future. But yeah, I thought, for me, that was just a fun fact. It's like, yep, you have my respect on that one, sir.
That's how.
Doesn't take
that's
much.
how you got the 0.5.
But yeah, and then also it was inspired. This was based off of a
TV show.
A series,
yeah,
right?
TV show.
A TV show. But yeah, I thought it's a good start to the summer season. I enjoyed this movie for what it was, and and if anything, I respect it a lot. Definitely the story was lacking a little bit, but some of the parts can be forgiven with the great chemistry that Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt had.
Fair.
So not too bad. I am curious to see how this movie fares as the summer season goes as in terms of the box office. Yeah. And I think like we did last year, I think it'll be fun to kind of go down the summer blockbuster season again and see how these movies fared in the box office when we get toward the end of the summer season.
Agreed.
But there you go. That's our spoiler review on The Fall Guy. Go check it out in theaters if you haven't already. And there you go. That's all the show we have for you guys this week. Ernesto, again, I want to wish you a happy birthday. Thank you for, I mean, you do this every week, but didn't have to do it on your birthday. And I always appreciate that. That's why I wore the fancy bow tie.
I know. I feel so underdressed next to you.
Yeah. I want to feel like I was just like, you took the time out to be here, so I'm like, you know what, I want to dress up for this. I want to dress up for it. Dress up for it. Yeah.
I feel so loved.
But with that, to our lovely listeners, what they can look forward to next week.
Next week we are exploring the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I'm actually really excited to see this movie. I'm a huge fan of the original trilogy, so I think it's gonna be fun. I think it's gonna be good. I have maybe not the highest hopes, but they're there. Like I'm skeptical that it'll be bad because I just love the original series so much.
I don't know. I have some pretty good hopes about it. I haven't heard any negative reviews on this movie. They're fairly positive, but I also don't know much about it. And I feel like this is a great example of a big blockbuster movie that I think they marketed pretty well.
Yeah, agreed.
Because going into it, I don't even know what the story is about. I just know that this takes place many years after the original trilogy, and that's pretty much all I need to know. And so I'm looking forward to this movie quite a bit because I'm also a big fan of the original trilogy. So hopefully it lives up to the hype. I know we talked about expectations in the past, but there's certain movies that you have to give some chances on.
True.
So
that's fair.
I'm looking because everything about this movie looks really cool. So I look forward to checking this out. And if we play our cards right, hopefully we can have a guest on the show as well. But there you go. That's all of the show we have for you guys this week. If you want more from us, you can always follow us on our social media channels on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok at Box Office Bingers, our X and Letterboxd page at Box Office Binger, and our Threads and Instagram page at @box_office_bingers. You can see our lovely faces on our YouTube page and our Spotify page at Box Office Bingers, as well as the reels that we post and our little clips that we have from each episode on our Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. We want to thank each and every one of you for just really listening to us to talk about movies. We've been doing this for so long, and we really appreciate it. You taking the time out just to listen to us, just kind of ramble for the next 2 hours, just talking about whatever, and you do it, and we appreciate it, and we're going to continue doing it because it's something we love to do, and we love movies. And Ernesto, again, have a happy birthday. Go spend it with your kids. Go be a dad after this.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a good idea.
Enjoy it. Good idea. All right, come back next week for more movie fun you're not going to regret. And for that, I've been your host, Matt Diaz.
Ernesto Santos. See ya.